Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another frightful commentary. My name is Erik Sprowls, and I was the series creator of Frightening Fridays. And this is the next chapter in a series of ongoing commentaries on how we brought this television series that you're about to witness here to life. And I have the pleasure of hosting this particular episode for the next hour. And this might be arguably what I think would be perhaps our best episode. There are three that stand out, and I guess all the standalones always stand out more so than any in the mythology that we did, that I thought were probably our best stuff. And that was the musical that we did, and Sexy Saturday Nights, and this one, which is entitled Episode 5, entitled Format Change. And I thought this was probably one of our, if not the best episode, probably one of our top three. And I think you always find that in any show, really, unless you really get into a really good mythology like the X-Files or Buffy the Vampire Slayer or something like that. But this one was a fun one because, well, I'm in it. And it don't get any better than that, you know. And I have the fortune of playing the network president, the fictitious network president. It's kind of a stretch, but kind of not. It was kind of a play on words as well, because at the time that I had gotten here and we were doing these shows, I was also kind of the self-proclaimed network president of BUTV in terms of creating programming to be aired on the channel. There was another professor at Bloomsburg University who also did some programming for the college, but she didn't really do a very good job, and she was, well, horrible. And she thought she did a newscast, and it was just kind of a joke. And the shows that we had put together at least had some class and dignity, and it looked pretty good. And so everybody kind of laughed when they said, whenever we wrote this episode, which is basically the network president calls creepy and says, you need to change your show around. I'm not happy with it. And basically they said, hey, we couldn't think of anything better. Let's have Sprowls play the role. And I don't know if it was my idea or somewhere along the idea, but we came up with the idea of playing it like the devil. So the devil would be in charge, the network president, Satan himself. So I get a chance to play the devil, and it's a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with it. And I really don't think that's why I thought this was one of our favorites. I just thought it was a fun episode. I thought I did a pretty good job. I thought Mike and I, who plays Creepy, had some pretty good chemistry, and I thought we had a pretty good time bantering back and forth, and it was an opportunity for us to expand our repertoire of characters into different situations other than just being creepy and scary and comedic. You know, we had to create a series of mock TV shows, so there was a lot of fun along the way. But in order to do that, we still had our mythology to live by, what was happening. So what you're looking at here is Cedric comes in and tells Creepy he's still getting engaged to Gwendolyn on the right, who's played by Heather Sage, and they are to be betrothed, and she's going to infiltrate. I wish somebody kept a running scorecard of how many times Creepy would have somebody infiltrate the X-Files or infiltrate something as a double agent from the inside. I wish I had a running tab on how many times we did that sad gag. But this was kind of a cute episode. This was our final one that we produced in 2004. just before the holidays, Christmas holidays. We wanted to do one for Christmas, but we just ran out of time. We had too many things on the plate, and kind of a late start we got in terms of getting the show on at Halloween. So we had, we didn't do too bad for getting the first episode on the air at Halloween, which is October 31st. We produced 4 more after that through the month of November. This has been November of 2004. And we wanted to do a Christmas one, but we let this one stand as our cliffhanger for the spring. So this was our final episode we did in the fall of 2004, and it aired consequently around early to mid-December. And then we came back in 2005 and did, I think, 6 more in the spring before ultimately I had to leave the university, and the show was consequently canceled. So that brings us up to date of where we are right now. So what's going on is, keeping with the mythology of the show, Creepy is talking with Gwendolyn on how she can infiltrate the Axe Files as a lowly secretary to keep her eye on them and spy on them from within. And Heather Sage, who plays Gwendolyn on the left there, she would be the one to tell you. I even did another commentary with her on another episode, and she said she thought she did a horrible job acting. And she kind of incidentally, that idea where he's like, I'll give you a 2x4. Hey, we're on the air. I got that idea from doing The Simpsons with Krusty the Clown. Krusty the Clown, he goes, I could pull a better cartoon out of my ass. Hey, kids. When he realized he was on the air. Anyway, Gwendolyn, or Heather, will tell you she didn't think that she did a very good job as the acting and as the character. She said she had done some musicals before, but she wasn't very happy with it. And she felt she could do a lot better. And so basically, Cedric realizes that what gets the ratings on any show are different formats, and of course, Creepy's ongoing quest to take over the world has to have viewers, and so he's kind of giving them some ideas about a cooking show, or, maybe take a look at the, what's that old saying, the best compliment is flattery. Flattery is the sincerest form of a compliment, or something like that. So Creepy gets the idea from Cedric that they should probably try a format change. And the network president, of course, has already told Cedric that the show needs a format change. And so during this discussion, Cedric tries to convince him that that is the way to go. I remember at the time, too, when we were shooting this, a lot of the people involved, the cast crew, were really excited to have some fun with it, because they got to do something other than just, welcome to the castle and that kind of thing. I don't know what Ben's doing in the background here. I think he's trying to be excited because at last they're getting a format change for the show, but I think it's more distracting than it is supportive to what Creepy's trying to do here. He's like, oh yeah, we're changing the show, but I think that might have been one of my ideas gone astray. And I said, act like you're really excited, and then instead it just kind of comes through like, what the hell's Ben doing behind Creepy there? But it seemed like the cast and crew were pretty excited to do something different. So and of course in the upcoming show here, we do a parody on the real world. Maury Povich, Emerald, the cooking show. What the heck else do we do? I don't even remember what all we do. So we do a few parodies. Now this was interesting. There was a series of commercials that we hosted on the air for Bloomsburg called Public Service Announcement. That was one of them, right there with the staring kid. And everybody used to make fun of him because we ran them so much. So Creepy, of course, kind of does a little joke on it. And you can find that commercial elsewhere on this disc, I'm told. If you want to see the commercial he's referring to, so you can understand what the joke was, it is available on this disc as well. So here we go. Here comes my big cameo. Cedric says it's time for a format change and tells Creepy, and Creepy says I'm going to go give him a piece of my mind. And of course I'm supposed to live in hell or wherever. It's never really said that I am the devil. That's me sitting there and behind the desk there. But it's kind of alluded to that I'm supposed to be Satan himself. And I'm actually sitting on another set across the way that was used at the time for the news program Info. Well, it wasn't. I kind of helped. I put that show together as well. We had pillars and we had the Bloomsburg thing. We had plants and we had things of that nature to give it more of a feel than when I first arrived at this college. I saw the newscast. It was crap. It still was crap, even though I was there. It's just that I tried to help out as much as I can by getting props and such, and eventually, they used them on the show. I was proud to say, trying to help a little bit. And I thought it was a good idea to wear red. Red was my own costume design, just because it's kind of hell. When you think of the devil, you think of him all red with the pitchforks and the pointed horns and everything. So now the dog thing, the dog dish, was kind of a sight gag in reference to the university president in real life, Dr. Jessica Kozloff, who is a colleague of mine who writes a heck of a nice letter of reference when I left. And because she walked her dog occasionally and would occasionally bring her dog to the set, she hosted a show in the studio while we were shooting Frightening Fridays called The Here and Now, which she would bring faculty members and staff members, administrators on the show and interview them. And so it was kind of we had a lot of sight gags or inside jokes as well as plot lines going on here, because the bowl was put on the desk next to me in reference to a power position such as President Kozloff's, it being a dish for her dog. So if you're wondering why there's a dog dish there, it kind of played well because it was the Huskies and we were on the Husky network being Bloomsburg and that kind of thing. So it was a nice inside gag. So Creepy shows up and I take him down to my whatever area there, and I have to explain to him what TV ratings are all about. I think I did a pretty good job. I was pretty proud of my acting here. I hadn't done it in front of the camera since, another show I had done called Fright Night Friday at another university. I played the evil villain on that show called Cannibal Spectre that I hadn't done some acting for a long time. So this was my first gig, and I just wanted to be pompous and I had it in mind that Creepy would constantly be playing catch up. We would have a conversation, but I knew that because Creepy was supposed to be out of his element here, and I'm supposed to be in control as the network president, that I had to dominate the conversation. And even during the lulls in our dialogue, I had to just keep talking, even if it was only to myself, because Creepy's kind of being sideswiped by it all. And I just had to keep going and getting ideas as we went. I think half of this crap I made up on my own. I don't even remember now. I think we had a guideline that we followed, but some of the shows that we made fun of, Mama's Family and The Love Boat and Full House, were just ones that I couldn't stand, and I just thought they would be funny to put them on. The Golden Girls. There are a lot of people out there that love those shows. I just couldn't stand them. I think they came from because they were so driven into my head. When I worked at a CBS affiliate in Wheeling, West Virginia, we would air those shows all the time in the afternoon. And after a while, I just get sick of them. So I think that's why I put the tie-in like Mama's Family and Golden Girls, that kind of thing. I don't know what you're hearing in the background here, like the music, We're in the Money or Hooray for Hollywood, and I got the idea of doing in post-production, as well as like some of the little sight gags here. We talk about doing a crime drama, and I put the Starsky and Hutch car because I couldn't think of another police car that everybody knew, you know, and that kind of joke there even goes well above college kids' minds because, hell, most of them nowadays, all of them nowadays, weren't even born when Starsky and Hutch was on the air. The only thing they would remember would be the Ben Stiller drama, or Ben Stiller comedy a few years ago. So we do a lot of quick comedy, and I wanted Creepy to have to be trying to keep up with me, and I was like a fast-talking salesman, you know, and he's like, well, but at the end there, I said, you have 60 seconds to decide, go, ding, tick, 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 and he's like, what, wait, I kind of liked how it flowed. And here's our first parody. We do a parody of the cooking show Emerald, and I had never seen the show. I still to this day have never seen the show. I don't watch the Food Network. I mean, I'm not the kind of guy that, you know, sits around and watches some other dude cook food. You know, if I'm hungry, I make a burger or do whatever. I'm not going to sit here and learn how to make food, but I'm told that this is what he would do, is he'd have like little emphasis like BAM! And I guess different sayings that we incorporated. So the desk you're looking at there is actually the one I was sitting at as the network president with the flames. We just turned it around and brought it over here. And all of the cooking materials were donated by, I think, mostly the gentleman who plays Cedric, Ben Willis. And I think there's a few other things there that might have been donated by cast and crew. We would generally get together on Monday nights at 9 o'clock and write this sucker. And decide then what we want to do, how we want to do it, and what we would do with scenes. And I remember too, when we were shooting this, we needed a rubber chicken, and you know, to have in the pot that I'm supposed to be, Creepy is supposed to be cooking. So that chicken became the mascot after a while. People would just play with that thing every week because it made out this annoying squawking noise. There's so much more I could talk about here. The chef's hat was donated by Ben Willis, and I love the apron that the girls made there. Kiss the cook or die. I guess there's some kind of a saying that Emerald would say, like, kiss the cook or something, and there's an old saying that says you hit kiss the cook, and I like how they incorporated it into an apron that said kiss the cook or die. And I think Creepy had that Italian accent going. I wasn't really quite sure if I guess that's what Emerald has. I don't know. But we move on to our different parody here, which is a parody of the, any show, like Maury, Povich, Springer, a combination of the two, where it's white trash discovering news about whatever. You know how it goes. You've seen this kind of stuff 100 times. But he's about to discover who the father, if he is the father of 14-year-old Damien, which is the character we introduced last time in the last episode. And I think, and we mentioned this in a commentary and in the production notes before we talked to Jeremy about it, Jeremy Mertz, who plays Damien, I think he was trying to play Damien as a bright-eyed, wide-eyed, innocent little boy, you know, but it came across as gay. And I love how he does it, because he should have gotten an actor award. He really did, but for supporting actor. But Joel was a tough one to beat. That Joel is right there playing Igor, talking right there into the microphone. And I would like to, I think the committee that year, the panel of judges was split into who to give the award to, and I think it came down between Joel and Jeremy, and I think it just happened to go to Igor, Joel Stevenson. But Jeremy did a wonderful job doing that stuff.
I have a question. I have to pee.
of course, this was our chance to have our cast and crew in different cameos as the crowd. And I remember some of them as Pat Paulo, Maria Gallagher. You even saw Gigi, who played, or Leah Wagenblutt, who plays Gigi in the audience. Jody, there it is, Heather Sage, who actually plays Gwendolyn, the girl who's infiltrating the X-Files right now, is front and center. Jody Reichert, who's the technical director, is in the crowd there, as well as, I think even Christina Crafty, who plays Scully, is in that crowd, in the back. You are not. And that was Ben's idea, who played Cedric, his idea of the long pause. This, if we would have had more people in a better studio, this is pretty close to what it looked like on the Springer Show. You know, kind of that feel. Now, I'm not really sure what Jeremy was going for here. He's wondering why he gets made fun of, but he's doing like the gay thing, and he does a wonderful job at it. He plays white trash. And when we did this show, of course, we were fortunate because when I first started at this television station, the first thing I did when I walked in, there was not all these studio sets and all these sets in the studio. None of that was there when I got there from day one. About 2 months prior to this shooting of this episode, you should have seen the studio. There was nothing there. Barren wasteland. Curtains, cameras, and that was about it, and wires. First thing I did was I had to find a budget for us to use to make all these sets and bring all these chairs in and have all this stuff that we could use for a real TV station. If you look around, none of that stuff was there when I started working there. So this was all about 2 months into it. This is Ted Shudak, who's playing the security, and I love his shirt. It says security. He plays the guy trying to break up everything, and those are fake tattoos, by the way, that he used. It was like slide-ons from Halloween. You could like slide on fake tattoos. But he is that big. He's a big man. He likes to lift, and he did a good job. He's a big man. And by the way, we went with the handheld camera here, doing things just for more realism, and eventually he's going to tackle Jeremy Mertz, who plays Damien. And when he tackles, and if you look right there, you can see how Ted just towers in size over Jeremy by a good foot, and he's got some upper body strength. Jeremy's pretty much a drink of water when you compare the two. But when Ted eventually does tackle him, he really tackled him. I mean, he lifted him off his feet and knocked him on his ass. And I don't know why he did. It wasn't even in the script. I think somebody whispered to him, tackle Jeremy, and Jeremy wasn't expecting it, but he was a good sport about the whole thing. And of course, this was our parody to wrap up this parody of Jerry Springer giving his 2 cents at the end of all his white trash fighting shows, where he says, here's what I think the answer is. My deep thought of the day. Of course, Cedric is doing his parody of that. And like I said, we were very fortunate to have all these other props lying around. Now, this line right here.
Is the Spooky Spectre still available?
I really like that because the Spooky Spectre, of course, it's no secret, was the host of the Fright Night Friday show that I did at another university. So it was kind of another inside gag that we had. So when I said, is the Spooky Spectre still available, I said it in reference to replacing Creepy, the Creepy Reaper. So I thought that was kind of a nice little cute joke we did. And I keep trying, there's just so much going on, I keep trying to say things and I end up forgetting. If I don't say it now, I'll forget. We were very lucky on having all of the set design laying around that I managed to scalp together. I convinced the dean and the department chairperson to help get some money for it, to rebuild this studio into something it could be, and it was. And I think they still use a lot of this stuff, but I took a lot of the stuff with me that I had brought with me as well.
Here we have my happy.
This is our parody of the Bob Ross show, and it's on PBS, and it's about a guy with a gigantic afro who paints. It's amazing to watch this guy work, and he paints things. I think he might be the late Bob Ross now, but he'll just start going to town on a board on a piece of canvas, and it'll turn into a real picture. It's just amazing how he does it. So we gave Creepy a giant afro wig, like Bob Ross had, and of course this is the worst painting in the world that he's painting through a mask and through a covering that he can't see out of. So, plus he has to paint with a gigantic brush, and he's supposed to be doing Bob Ross. He's painting a happy little squirrel in a happy little meadow, and he starts off that way, and eventually he can't talk about happy too long because he's the creepy reaper, and he eventually calls this lava, and it's coming down and killing the villagers. And this was all Mike DeShane. This was shot in one take, and I told him at the time, I said, we have to shoot it in one take. He says, why? Can't we edit? I'm like, no, once you put paint on that canvas, it's done. So this was all shot in one take, and this is all Mike DeShane.
Go rolling down the mountainside.
He did a great job at it, too.
Everything in sight. And it's rolling down the mountain. Yes, it's going to melt all of the villagers.
It was just long enough, too, that it was funny, and it didn't get really, really sad and long, so it's a lot of fun to watch Mike go to town. And I like to do that, too, on these kind of shows. I like to give some motivation to a cast member and just let him go. Go nuts, and see what happens. We added a couple effects.
One flew up in a tree. Look, see?
But,
See, I am in a tree. Yes. Now,
I think Ben, who plays Cedric, told me he still has this picture as a memento from the show. A lot of people kept mementos from the show when eventually we called it quits and moved on.
I can't do this anymore.
I remember, too, there's just an ad-lib that Mike says here. It says, yeah, I know this show sucks. It's www.sucky.com. And he didn't mean anything by it. In fact, we put the graphic on right here. Well, it just so happens that this graphic that we put on www.sucky.com is really a website. And, of course, Mike didn't know that. I didn't know that. So when we aired it, we just put it on there to be funny. We didn't have any other reason whatsoever, And it turns out that it's a porn site. And the dean at the university found out about it and immediately told us to pull that off of there so it would not air. But the damage was already done. Me taking it off of there was the dumbest thing I think I ever did because it already aired. And, of course, it's here on the DVD release this way. So it was stupid. We had no idea. It was just kind of an unfortunate accident that when Mike did it, he said, yeah, this show sucks. It's Suckoville. It's www.sucky.com. And it was total ad-lib. It turns out there really was a sucky.com, and it was a porn website. And, of course, the administrators at the college didn't want to advertise that on a university channel. It created a big brouhaha. So we move on to our next parody here, which is our parody of the Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. And again, this was another show that I had never seen, but I knew what it was about. But of course, Jeremy plays a wonderful gay role. Now, if you look closely here, these are the makeup people giving the makeover to Igor. The tall girl in the back is actually Gwendolyn. The one wearing the ball cap in the front left is Christina Crafty, who actually plays Agent Scully. And the one on the right is Janine Scovrin, who was a production technician on the show, but she was also in the commercial parody that we did on the show. I think in the last episode, when we parodied the 100 years of... the little kid, the little big brothers and big sisters. She's the one that turns with the giant head, the giant troll in the last episode. So it was this show. The good thing about the show is it was almost like it was all community theater. So there'd be times you would act on the show. There'd be times that you would do behind the scenes stuff on the show and vice versa. Nanny, Full House, Perfect Strangers. Those all shows are all crap. And by the way, the sound effect you heard there with the yodeling is the sound. You might recognize it. It is the sound effect from The Price is Right. And of course, they gave the makeover to Igor.
Nobody likes me.
And that was just an ad lib that Joel added that made the final cut because it was cute. I thought it needed a zinger there, and sometimes you just got to rely and say, come on, think of something. He said, nobody likes me. So it was kind of a cute singer.
The true story of 4 strangers picked to live in a castle and have their lives taped.
And this is our parody on the real world. That speech is pretty close to what they say. And if you look closely, you see Creepy's face inside the lineup there of the guy, the lizard guy. That's pretty close to what they say at the beginning of every episode of the real world, or what they used to in the old days. So we did some hidden cameras around the castle, and then we also mixed it up with handheld stuff, so it would give that grittiness that MTV likes to do with, the gritty camera moving around and invading everyone's personal space. And we did the cool graphics with the arrow, to give it like a new wave kind of thing. And that clip's right there is actually a clip from our first episode ever, the pilot episode. And it was the first time that we had our characters sit down and talk with, as though they were being interviewed. It was about this time that we felt the show was starting to take off. And it got nominated for some of the BUTV awards that are also on this disc that it won. And we eventually did a behind-the-scenes special. A couple of students made it, that you'll see elsewhere on other discs in this volume, in this set. And things were going good. It's a shame that it had to be canceled. So this was an opportunity for the the students to sit down and get the feel of talking. And that was an ad lib, by the way, by Creepy when he says, "Why wait?" That just happened to be the Snickers the Snickers motto at the time. We liked this idea too. If Igor would be completely incoherent, and we would put subtitles up there that would, so everyone could understand what he was saying. Blind Date. That was my own doing. I threw that on there because I love that show and how they have the little side graphics like that. And I think that's very well received. I love that kind of stuff on shows nowadays that they do. It's amazing how much Creepy looked like he was actually eating that candy bar. He had that jaw action going.
The network producer said that if we didn't reformat our show,
The only bad, sad thing here is you can tell that it's a mask. It's the nice thing about the lighting is when you do it on the set and it's really dark, even though it's a bad lighting, it still looks relatively creepy. No pun intended.
You know what? This show sucks. Okay?
We weren't afraid to make fun of ourselves either. Yeah, we know the show sucks. And, every Friday night, you'll have some drunk frat guys in the college town saying, "Hey, your show sucks!" And we're like, "Hey, we know, but at least you're watching." And they're like, oh yeah, well, yeah. They really couldn't answer with anything. It's like, yeah, well, if it sucks so much, how come you're watching? Your mom. That was the sincerest form of flattery. We'd have all these people in town say, "Yeah, well, watch that Frightening Friday show and it sucks." We're like, "Yeah, we know, but you're watching it." So it was kind of a backhanded compliment, but we took it. It's time for our final parody. We do parody on Sesame Street with the Cookie Monster. And boy, does Joel sound like the Cookie Monster here. Just listen to him here.
Cookie. C is for cookie. That's good enough for me.
Boy, that sounds like the Cookie Monster. I was pretty impressed when Joel whipped that out of some closet of his array of talents. And of course, Creepy's supposed to be parodying the Count on Sesame Street. He even sounds like him a little bit.
I'm getting sick of this crap.
I really like this scene, though.
What are you doing?
I love when he kicks him and you're a crash. I think the Cookie Monster, in reality, belonged to Leah, who came in here as Gigi, but I really think it did belong to Leah at the time. I think it was one of hers that she brought from home. And of course, I finally give my approval
I worked my butt
to
off
Creepy
all night
because of Leah
to
being
please you,
hot.
And she comes on holding a little fluffy animal guy, and you give her a thumbs up. What's the deal? All right, you know what? Me and you, Mr. Producer Man.
And
I wanna
Gigi,
have
of
a
course,
talk
is
with you
supposed to
right
be the
now.
sex appeal on the show.
here.
And of course,
Hi, and welcome to Gigi Street.
What are you talking
I
about?
like when she's like addressing the camera. Welcome to Gigi Street.
I ought to give you a...
Wait, Mr. Creepy.
No,
Wait, calm down. I said you can have your show on the air.
Mike was pretty good to work with too. He had good timing on things once in a while, and I know he, my technical director Jody Reichert, always made fun of me and said, "Well, this is just a remake of your old show you did at Cal U." I said, "No, I don't see it that way. I just don't. I thought Creepy and Spooky were two totally different characters. I can't put my finger on it, but the Spooky Spectre guy and the way that he was portrayed was just too... It wasn't funny enough. And I like how Mike did Creepy here. I thought he did it and it was much more funny than the old show. I thought this had a lot more... We had a lot more fun making the show, too. And right there was the only gag that you're led to believe that I'm the devil. When I look at the camera and I go, "You know who I am." And of course the episode's ending, and so we get back to our mythology of Gwendolyn invading X-Files headquarters on her job interview. And
Let me tell you how things run around here.
we use the same office most of the time for Mahler and Scully. This is BUTV. This is outside the studios in one of the general offices. It's actually right next door to the mass communication department. But I like the fact that Scully does not like and doesn't believe in haunted whatever, and Mahler does. So during the job interview, Mahler's trying to get Gwendolyn by saying, "Do you like to crawl around sewers? Do you like to do all this other stuff?" And then she's like, yeah. And when he finally says, "Do you believe in the Creepy Reaper?" And she's like, no. And that's when Scully cuts in and says, "You're hired," because at last someone who doesn't like to do these things, she's thinking someone like me who hates to do all this stuff, If Gwendolyn probably would have said, "Yes, I like all that," then she probably wouldn't have hired her as fast. It was kind of a little backward joke. And that's episode 5, format change. And as the credits go by, I just wanted to say again, I thought this was one of our better episodes. I had a lot of fun with it. And we had a large crew and cast on this one. But this isn't where it stops. There'll be more after this, more chapters of commentary on how we put the show together and some behind-the-scenes secrets. You can also see it in the production notes on the disc and the award shows and everything. So, until next time, bad luck, worst wishes, and we'll see you for episode 6.
The home of the Huskies.
Take care.